Hi there, this is Galen Martling. Today I have a watercolor card. It's very easy to do, and I'm using a wet-on-wet technique for this card, and it's very simple. I'm also using leftover pieces from the trimming of the watercolor piece as a little flag accent. And so for the stamps, I'm using Unity Stamp Company by His Wounds. It is a beautiful Easter kit, and in that kit is this pretty background of flowers and this sentiment. And so I pre-stamp the sentiment onto a tag, and that will be added to a card later on. And so this particular background was pre-stamped on watercolor paper. Now for the inks, I make sure I use waterproof ink for stamping whenever I want to use watercolor. And so today I'm using Prima watercolors. They are the tube style. I have a little bit of the tube out in this palette mat, and I'm only using the pink shade for today. So I am mixing water right over that pink shade. It hardens as it sets, but when you want to use it, you just add water and it turns to watercolor that's usable. And so I just place water first onto that flower background panel. And then I go in with the pink and I add dabs of that pink color in different spots. You can just paint it all solid if you want. I wanted more of a variegated movement look to the watercolor. So I just added dots, and then I picked up the panel and moved it around a little bit in that water. Sometimes I add more water and more color. I do this over and over. And so I just move it around. It looks real messy, but this is all going to get trimmed up later on. And so I'm adding some more color and I'm adding more water just to get some more movement and some blending. And then I will heat set in between each of the sections where I'm adding water and blending. Sometimes I want to go ahead and heat set and add a fresh layer of watercolor. And so there's the first heat setting, and then to finish off, sometimes the puddles are still there. I just add a piece of paper towel right over that layer. It picks up any of those leftover puddle pieces and puddle spots. When watercolor dries, especially this Prima watercolor, it will dry a lot lighter. But I wanted a more vibrant look, so I added more layers of color. And sometimes I get a little more concentrated with the color, a little less water. And then I use a brush to move around that color a little bit more, just to make sure it's a little bit further along into the middle of that background. These are some inks that I like to use for watercolor when I'm going to watercolor stamp, or stamp with this ink for when I want to watercolor. Also, Gina K Designs amalgam ink is good to use also for when you want to watercolor. All of them are waterproof. And so now I am just kind of measuring this tag, and I want to trim off a piece that I know will be a little bit too long for this tag with the sentiment in there. So I trimmed off a piece, but later on I'm going to make a flag with that extra leftover panel. I like doing that. I try to use as much as I can. I don't like the waste. So now right onto the card base, I'm going to use some pink splatters using that same pink watercolor. I heat set, and then I just dabbed off and blotted off any extra puddles with a paper towel. And so here you go. I have a card base which just has the splatters. Then I have a tag. And I add with foam tape that pink watercolor flower panel. And then I'm going to add foam tape to the tag and lay that right over this card front, or this card base. The only extra thing I did was added that extra piece of trimming for a flag accent on the card. So that's it. It's so easy to do. I hope you give it a try and take a moment to subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.